Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, or CTBTO, spoke to NHK on Monday following a hydrogen blast at two of the reactor buildings at the quake-damaged Fukushima No. 1 plant. The organization said no radioactive materials from the blasts have been detected so far by its facility in Takasaki City, about 200 kilometers southwest of the plant. The watchdog added that it will continue its 24-hour monitoring.
Anything that would happen within our mandates and within the detection capability of our station will be picked and then the information provided to our member states.
The Vienna-based organization has about 330 facilities around the world to observe radioactive materials in the atmosphere and tremors caused by nuclear tests. Multiple layers of safety systems are supposed to prevent nuclear accidents, especially meltdowns. But as the Fukushima nuclear crisis demonstrates, nature has challenged man's best plans. Here's what happened to get Japan into the state it's in now.
The first explosion blew out the top part of a reactor containment building at the Fukushima No. 1 nuclear power plant. This footage inside the building was taken during a regular inspection. The nuclear reactor is housed behind this robust wall. This is what a nuclear reactor looks like. The uranium inside the fuel rod inside the reactor undergoes nuclear fission. The rods emit heat, generating energy. Usually water cools them to maintain their temperature at 270 degrees Celsius. But if the cooling fails, the temperature could rise to over 1,200 degrees. This temperature is hot enough to melt the fuel rods. When the earthquake hit, the first safety system to prevent a meltdown was activated. Control rods rose into the reactor to stop the nuclear fission. As planned, the reactor stopped operating. But the fuel rods were still hot. Water should have been circulated to cool them down. However, this didn't happen because of a power outage right after the quake. So the second safety system turned on. The emergency diesel power generator began spraying the rods with coolant. But an hour later, something unexpected happened. Without warning, the emergency generator stopped. Around this time, the tsunami, possibly as high as 10 meters, hit the power plant. Experts think this is what caused the generator to fail. Now, the third safety system started operating. It converts steam traveling through the pipes into water. It cools the rods, but the water level went down, and the temperature continued to rise. All three safety measures had failed. Professor Akira Omoto of the Japan Atomic Energy Commission was involved in construction of the Fukushima plants. He thinks the cooling water somehow leaked from the reactor.
The reactor's coolants must have leaked somewhere in the building. We thought we had taken adequate precautions for a tsunami, but what happened was beyond our expectations.
To forcibly cool the reactor, seawater had to be pumped into it and the containment vessel. Similar failures and a huge explosion also hit another reactor at the plant on Monday. Once again, nature has challenged man's best efforts.
The U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet says 17 crew members have been exposed to low levels of radiation that was released from the Fukushima nuclear power plant. The crew was on 3 helicopters from the aircraft carrier USS Ronald Reagan. They were conducting rescue operations outside Sendai City. According to the 7th Fleet, they were detected with low levels of contamination. But it says the radioactive materials can easily be removed with soap and water. It has not detected any more contamination. The helicopters were also coated with radioactive traces that had to be washed off. The Navy said the source was a plume that was released from the Fukushima No. 1 nuclear power plant. The dose in this case is less than being exposed to radiation naturally in 1 month. The aircraft carrier was at sea about 160 kilometers northeast of the plant. A hydrogen blast occurred at one of its reactors on Saturday. The U.S. Navy says the Ronald Reagan and other 7th Fleet ships have been relocated. Countries are bracing for radioactivity leaked from nuclear power plants in Fukushima Prefecture. Russia is monitoring radiation levels every hour at the National Observatory in the Far East rather than conduct the country's usual daily checks. Officials at the observatory in Vladivostok told NHK that their data show no irregularities and that no leaked radiation seems to have reached the region. The observatory is to continue its intensive monitoring until the safety of the Japanese plants can be ensured. A French team of 12 experts trained to deal with nuclear accidents is to arrive in Japan on Monday evening. The team is equipped to decontaminate and treat people exposed to radiation and is expected to coordinate with Japan's government. The U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, which controls nuclear power plants in the country, has sent 2 experts to Japan. The Japanese government has instructed oil wholesalers to release their stockpiles to cope with shortages of gasoline and other petroleum products in a quake-stricken area. Economy, Trade and Industry Minister Bandi Kaeda said on Monday 1.26 million kiloliters of oil would be made available, worth about 3 days of domestic consumption. Kaeda said dry batteries and flashlights are also in short supply at retail stores. He said he has already asked various industries to make efforts to meet demand. Kaeda added that these industries have the capacity to do so. He called on people to be calm and avoid buying unnecessary products. Up next, the world weather forecast. The earthquake is also having a great impact on the people in the Tokyo metropolitan area. The Tokyo Electric Power Company implemented rolling power outages in the region on Monday. A company official said at the news conference the power was cut for limited periods in cities in 4 prefectures to prevent demand from exceeding supply toward Monday evening. The outages started at 5 p.m. and lasted for about 90 minutes. On Sunday, the utility announced the electricity would be cut for selected areas for 3-hour periods on a rotating basis. The outages are designed to cope with the severe lack of electricity stemming from problems at the Fukushima nuclear power plant, which normally supplies power for the metropolitan area. The cuts were scheduled to begin on Monday morning, but lower than anticipated demand allowed the utility to continue full supply until 5 p.m. The firm says it will implement power cuts on Tuesday if demand for electricity exceeds supply. The Tohoku Electric Power Company, which supplies electricity to northeastern Japan, is considering similar outages. The planned power outages have caused inconvenience and frustration for millions in the affected areas. Many department stores and supermarkets closed or shortened their business hours on Monday. One of the major department store chains, Mitsukoshi Isetan Holdings, has temporarily closed 6 stores in the Tokyo metropolitan area due to the planned power cuts.
I was relaxed and not expecting this power outage. So this morning, I was totally caught off guard.
At one supermarket in Tokyo, more than 100 people lined up. The number of customers who could enter was limited, and clerks were busy dealing with them. Many motorists scrambled to fill up at nearby gas stations. At this gas station in Kunitachi City, Tokyo, customers were told they would have to wait for more than an hour.
I usually don't fill up to save money, but today is an exception because you don't know what's going to happen next.
Welcome back to NHK Newsline. 3 days after the earthquake, aftershocks continue. A magnitude 6.2 quake hit Ibaraki Prefecture north of Tokyo on Monday. The meteorological agency says that following Friday's devastating quake, over 200 tremors with magnitudes of 5 or more were recorded by Monday afternoon. The agency says 50 quakes measuring 4 or higher on the Japanese scale of 0 to 7 were recorded by noon. The agency says there's a 40% chance that quakes measuring 5 or higher will occur over the next 3 days. Officials are advising residents to be on the alert, even for small quakes, as buildings and roads have become unstable due to the aftershocks. The officials also warn that major aftershocks may cause another tsunami in areas hit by the original quake. The death toll from the earthquake and tsunami that struck the Pacific coast of northeastern Japan on Friday has risen to nearly 1,900, with at least 15,000 unaccounted for. In Miyagi Prefecture, 785 people have been confirmed dead. In a coastal town of Onagawa, with a population of around 10,000, more than 5,000 are taking refuge at 16 evacuation centers. The municipal disaster headquarters says the whereabouts of the remaining 5,000 is not yet known. In the town of Minami Sanriku, most buildings not made of concrete were washed away. The prefecture says about 1,000 bodies have been found. About 10,000 people, more than half its population, remain missing. Police say the number of deaths in Miyagi Prefecture is expected to surpass 10,000. In Iwate Prefecture, 627 people have been confirmed dead. Fukushima Prefecture has confirmed 431 deaths. In all, the number of confirmed deaths comes to 1,898. In the hardest hit Tohoku region, at least 15,000 people are unaccounted for. In devastated areas, survivors continue searching for missing loved ones.
Our crew saw a man walking in the devastated town. He says this was his home. 78-year-old Shogo Saito escaped the tsunami with his family. But the home he lived in with his family for 30 years has been destroyed. Saito says he went up the hill and turned around to see his home swept away and crushed, and felt very miserable. The extent of the damage has yet to be assessed, and the rescue operation continues in the areas hit by tsunami. But the work is being hampered by continued aftershocks. A family is reunited after 3 days.